So I recently got back into reading, and oh my, it is very beneficial. Meaning, we're setting goals in the beginning of the year, and one of the things that I personally fell off because there's a lot of things that we set for ourselves and we kind of fall off the bandwagon was reading. And as you can tell, books are an ancient art form, and there's a lot of you out there that are kind of bringing it back. Kudos to you because books you don't normally you very rarely see people walk outside with a book. There will be occasional teenager that's like really deep into Harry Potter or a Twilight book in the line at Best Buy or something. You know what I'm talking about. And not that many adults have that ability anymore, have that ability, or not ability, but a tendency to carry something physical like a book while they're waiting in line. We always have these technologies, the social medias, the YouTubes, whatever you will, and we are entering an age, we are actually have entered the age in which we prefer a video rather than, ink and paper. And, that's not necessarily an entirely bad thing. A lot of the information that we seek and we need are now online, they're digitized. Um, and it's very easily accessible. Now, the bad thing about it is now we live in an age where there's schools where we're digitizing everything. It's very rare that you see someone carrying around a textbook. Usually it's just an ebook now, and then you can use Control F to find the keyword while you're doing your quiz or your test or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. I know you cheated on that last test. No, I'm just kidding. But it's very easy. It's very accessible. But the thing is, reading a book and having that time with your book is kind of like a pure time. It's a very solemn time where you're just kind of with this literature in front of you, this ink and paper from someone that probably hasn't written this, that wrote this like maybe hundreds, if not thousands of years ago if you read philosophy. And it's amazing the stretch in which we can go in time to realize these thoughts and they're still alive as if the person were still alive themselves. And reading is such a great way, and this is not supposed to be some sort of marketing campaign to start reading, but I highly recommend it. It's really great. And you only receive only benefits from that act. Now, the thing that I'm reading so far, or in this current day, um, are a collection of books, actually, which, just a disclaimer, it's completely fine to be maneuvering from book to book. Like, you don't have to feel obligated to finish a book. You can actually read multiple books at the same time, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Like you watching multiple shows at the same time. And it's not a toxic trait to be reading multiple books at the same time, just to remind you. So the book I'm reading currently is something called, let me think about it, Obstacles the Way by Ryan Holiday. I actually bought the 3-part series because he has this 3-part series called Is the Way or whatever. Or not Is the Way, but something like that. He wrote 3 main books in this collection, which is Obstacle is the Way, Ego is the Enemy, and Stillness is the Key. So those 3 books combined has its own collection. Ryan Holiday is an author that is writing these things in relation to the Stoicism practices back in the day. The ancient Stoics like Socrates and Philocrates, whatever. I'm still kind of learning myself. But he's writing this new collection, and the first one is called Courage is Calling, and then the second one is called Discipline is Destiny. That's the second one. And I think he's writing a third one because he's writing another trilogy. But this first trilogy that I'm currently working on is really life-changing. You should look into it, Ryan Holiday, and these books, Obstacle is the Way, Ego is the Enemy, and Stillness is Key, or is the Key, not really sure. But they're really great books, and even just going to the first couple pages of book 1, Obstacle is the Way, really enlightens you. I know it's kind of like the message of the book is already in the title, where like ego's the enemies. Okay, we're gonna fight egotism, and the first one's like Obstacle is the Way. Okay, so that means that there are gonna be things in life that are gonna barricade us from what we want, and we have to learn our way to navigate around these things or through them. But the thing is, he provides anecdotes and he provides really, really great scenarios of potentially people that you look up to, so you can build this sense of relatedness to these figures like maybe Gandhi or even like Theodore Roosevelt or multiple different people that existed in the past that are currently icons in history books that have probably experienced something very similar to what you're going through. Not everything, right? We're talking about things like adversity, right? Like maybe there's like Einstein experienced a teacher saying that he's like really dumb, like he doesn't know anything. So Albert Einstein was actually labeled as someone that wasn't really smart when he was growing up, and um, now he's being called an Einstein is like saying that you're a nerdy person because of the person he became. And all these people are evolving in their own ways, and it reminds us that we are also evolving. Like history does repeat itself, but also we evolve as we grow. We're not like the same person as we were many months ago, many weeks ago, even like a year ago. We were probably completely different people. And as they say, if you're not like looking back a year ago at yourself and not laughing and being like cringed out by who you were a year ago, that means you're not growing enough. Which there is a level of ambiguity there, but you know what they're trying to get at with that. So the one principle that really struck out to me, or stuck out to me, not struck out to me in this Obstacles the Way book is this concept of fear, being fearful and being afraid. I know that we interchange them both because they're both kind of a negative emotion. We think being scared is like being in a fetal position, like crying, and even being fearful. We kind of interchange those two. We think they're the same. Being in a fetal position, crying, and like rocking back and forth in your puddle of tears. We've always been there. It's called a Monday. Wow. So that got really dark. So being afraid and being fearful, the question is, what is the big difference? Ryan Holiday poses this as a singular chapter in the book, and he kind of talks about how he does get there's a lot of evidence, not evidence, but a lot of citations. He does have a citation of the Bible, kind of mentioning that "be not afraid" is a phrase that comes up in the Bible the most. I may be wrong for those, Bible worms out there. I don't really know the frequency of phrases, but he does claim that "be not afraid" is a term or a phrase that comes up in the Bible the most of all. And you probably hear that if you go to church, "be not afraid." And it is kind of, again, highlighting this word fear. Afraid is being fearful, being afraid. Now, being scared, "be not scared" is not a phrase that comes up in the Bible. Something scary, something that scares you, or you are being scared. Although it may sound very similar, they are kind of different in their own way. So Ryan Holiday's approach, again, this is not my own claim on it, but Ryan Holiday's perspective on the two, the contrast, the juxtaposition, if you will, between the two words is very different. So his claim is that, when let's say you're scared of heights, word scared, right? You're on a 16-foot building and you're looking down and you're scared, right? You're extremely scared of like, the potential scenarios are running through your head as you're looking down on the street below you because you're scared of heights, right? And what Ryan Holiday says is that when you get off and you step away from that ledge or wherever you are on that 16-foot building, you're no longer scared because you don't have to be looking down at the street anymore. You don't have to be looking at that, and like that feeling of being scared is fleeting. It flies away once you are out of that scenario. Now, being fearful is something that happens and is kind of like a tattoo on your heart. It's like it goes with you, right? As we talked about, being scared is something that when you get off of that scenario or away from that scenario, it kind of goes away. But fear kind of sticks with you for a while. So Ryan Holiday's claim on fear versus being scared is that being scared is a momentary feeling. It's something that happens in a moment, but when you kind of escape that scenario in some sort of way, whether it be in your mind or even in your surroundings, then you're no longer scared because you are comfortable, you're away from the scenario itself, and being scared is something that happens in a given second. Now, what does that mean for being fearful? You can kind of guess it already. Being fearful is something that goes and stretches beyond the moment. It's something that you kind of feel on a day-to-day basis. You fear of being judged. Your fear of being, your physical appearance, like fearful, right? We call that insecurity. And being fearful is basically the long-term effect of something. You can be afraid of clowns, and that's not something that you're like gonna be away from a clown and you're not gonna be afraid anymore. Well, you're not gonna be scared anymore. You're gonna have this fear for clowns because next time that clown comes, oh my gosh, and the thought of the clown coming, it just makes you fearful. It's just the fear of God in your eyes, as they say. As like Indiana Jones was like afraid of snakes, like just out of all the things that he could have been afraid of. Shout out to the Indiana Jones movie that's coming out later this year, Dial of Destiny. That's gonna be great. But you would think that this guy, this archaeologist slash adventurer, is not scared, like afraid of anything. He's like jumping through things. He's running away from very, very abnormally circular boulders, and obstacles the way, as they say. And he's never fearful. He doesn't have a glint of fear in his eyes until a snake pops up in his forefront, and he just clams up and everything. Again, being fearful is something that stretches beyond a moment. It's something that is stuck with us. Yes, it can be alleviated in some sort of ways, and there may be some remedies that may help, lessen that fear. But something that you're afraid of is something that's more beyond the moment, as we said. Being scared is something that, like, okay, like you're about to go on stage, and let's just say that you're feeling nervous. You're scared of talking in front of people. It's not you're fearful of talking with people, right? It's something that you're scared of. And let's just say like roller coasters. You're scared of roller coasters because, every time you get in line, you have your heartbeat go fast and, zoom, zoom when you go on the roller coaster. It scares you. But once you're on the roller coaster and it kind of goes off and you're already in that momentum, you're in that rhythm of the roller coaster, it kind of feels okay. It feels less scary in reality than it does in your imagination. And as the Stoic, I think, or philosopher, I don't know if he adopts Stoicism, but there was a philosopher named Seneca that said, your imagination may be scarier than your reality. Let me say that again. The philosopher Seneca said that your imagination actually may be scarier than the reality, meaning that a lot of the thoughts, a lot of the scenarios that we think about in our heads are probably scarier than the actual reality of those given things and those circumstances. So yeah, living in your own head is a very big danger in your life because we all tend to overthink, especially scenarios and situations that will come up in your life. And that's not an abnormal thing. We all do that. But the thing is, the obstacle is the way. Are you going to be scared of what's going to happen? Or are you going to fear what's going to happen? And depending on your answer, are you willing or are you able to push through? Because the obstacle is the way, as Ryan Holiday says. So again, a little recap. Being scared is something that happens in a moment, but being fearful is something that stretches beyond a moment. And that is the kind of emotion that can be very destructive, very deleterious, as some people say, which is meaning not of benefit to you. Deleterious, like delete. That you are fearful of something. And let's say you're fearful of you're being judged by people, which is one of the main things that the hustle culture always pushes, is that do not be fearful of the opinions that others have of you, because it'll prevent you from being at your best, being at your most creative, or whatever it so be it. So ask yourself, are you scared or are you afraid? Because we all are either of those things. But if you are afraid of something, don't let it get in the way of who you potentially want to become, potentially want to do, and allow you to live life the way that you want to live life, I'd say. So this is a short episode. You're welcome. I hope you have a great day. If this really helped, please do let me know. I'm trying to build up feedback as much as I can. So I guess I'll leave an email in the description. Yeah, I guess I'll leave my email in the description of this episode. Also, you can find this podcast on Instagram, Sarcastically Optimistic. I'm trying to figure out if I want to lessen the name and just redirect it in some other way because it's way too long. But feel free to let me know what you think about this episode. If this really helped you, do share with others. I'm really trying to stretch out the reach of this podcast, and I'm relying on each one of you guys. So I don't put ads on this podcast for a good reason, because I really want you to enjoy the experience. I don't want you to be inundated with advertisements from Squarespace. and Skillshare, because this is not YouTube. This is a podcast, and this is a time that we both, you and me, have together, and it is a sacred time. So thank you very much for listening. I'll catch you guys on the flippity flap. Goodbye.
Baby, why you always smoke a J, relax and watch some anime come through the pad I'm trying to play. The Super Smash Bros, what you know? Wait to let me pick Lucario, you don't